Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat in her chair at the big radio telescope. She had been doing this job for 15 years. Every day she listened to sounds from space. Most days she heard nothing special, just the normal noise of stars and planets far away. But this Tuesday was different. Elena was drinking her morning coffee when she heard something strange. A voice was talking on a radio frequency that should not exist. The voice was speaking a language she had never heard before. But somehow her computer understood it and showed her the words in English. Council vessels approaching Sol 3. Abort mission. Repeat. Do not engage the bipedal species. They possess the persistence gene. Once provoked, they will hunt you across galaxies. Elena dropped her coffee cup. The hot liquid spilled all over her desk. She did not care. Her hands were shaking as she read the message again and again. Sol 3 was what scientists called Earth. Bipedal species meant creatures that walked on two legs. That meant humans. Someone out there was talking about humans, and they were warning others to stay away from Earth. Elena saved the recording on her computer. She played it back 5 times. Each time she heard the same words. The voice sounded scared. It was a warning, but not the kind that humans usually gave to each other. This was different. This was bigger. She looked around her small office. Pictures of her family sat on her desk next to the coffee stain. Her daughter was 10 years old. Her son was 8. They lived in a world where the biggest worry was homework and what to have for dinner. They had no idea that someone far away in space was talking about humans like they were dangerous. Elena picked up her phone to call her boss. Then she stopped. Who would believe her? She had been listening to space for 15 years and had never found anything like this. People would think she was crazy. She decided to study the message more carefully first. The computer had translated the words, but she wanted to understand them better. What did persistence gene mean? Why were these creatures afraid of humans? Elena worked for 3 hours studying the signal. The voice belonged to something that was not human. The way it spoke was different. The sounds it made were too perfect, too controlled. No human could speak like that. She found something else interesting. The message was not sent to Earth. It was sent from somewhere near Earth to somewhere far away. That meant there were at least 2 groups of aliens. One group was close to Earth. Another group was far away in space. The close group was warning the far group to stay away from humans. Elena felt cold even though her office was warm. If aliens were close to Earth, they might be watching humans right now. They might be studying people like she studied signals from space. But the message said something else that was even more scary. The aliens were afraid of humans, not because humans had big weapons or fast spaceships. Humans did not even know aliens existed. The aliens were afraid because of something called the persistence gene. Elena did not know what this gene was, but the aliens seemed to know about it. They said humans would hunt across galaxies if they were made angry. That meant humans would never give up. They would keep fighting no matter how long it took or how far they had to go. She thought about human history. Humans had always been good at not giving up. When someone hurt their family, humans would fight back. When someone took their land, humans would try to get it back. When someone killed their friends, humans would seek justice. Maybe the aliens had studied humans for a long time. Maybe they had seen how humans acted when they were angry or hurt. Maybe they learned that humans were different from other creatures in space. Elena's phone rang. It was her daughter calling from school. "Mom, I forgot my lunch money. Can you bring it to me?" Elena looked at her daughter's picture on the desk. She thought about the alien message. Someone out there was warning others to stay away from her daughter's world. "I will be right there, sweetie," Elena said. She put the recording on a secure drive and locked it in her desk drawer. She needed time to think about what to do with this information. Should she tell the government? Should she tell other scientists? Should she tell anyone at all? Elena drove to her daughter's school. The streets looked normal. People were going to work and school like any other day. Children were playing in the park. No one knew that aliens somewhere in space were talking about them. At the school, Elena watched her daughter run to meet her. The little girl was smiling and happy. She had no idea that her mother had just discovered proof that humans were not alone in the universe. Elena gave her daughter the lunch money and hugged her tight. "I love you," Elena said. "I love you too. Mom, why are you hugging me so hard?" Elena smiled. "Just because you are special." Her daughter laughed and ran back to her classroom. Elena stood in the hallway for a moment. She thought about the alien warning. They were afraid of humans because humans would never stop protecting the people they loved. Maybe that was not such a bad thing to be known for in the galaxy. Elena drove back to work. She had a decision to make. The world was about to change, and she was the only person who knew it. 3 months had passed since Elena heard the alien warning. She had told her boss about it, and he had told the government. Now many people knew about the message, but nobody had seen any aliens yet. That changed on a cold morning in Montana. Sarah Chen was making breakfast for her class when she saw the lights in the sky. She taught 2nd grade at the small school in Millerville. The town only had 800 people, and everyone knew everyone else. The lights were bright and moving in ways that airplanes could not move. They came down from the clouds and hovered over the town like giant metal birds. Sarah had been a soldier before she became a teacher. She had fought in 2 wars before deciding she wanted to help children instead of fighting enemies. When she saw the strange ships, her soldier training kicked in. "Children, everyone get under your desks right now," Sarah said in her calm teacher voice. The kids listened to her because they trusted her. The ships landed in the main street. Things came out of the ships that looked like people, but were not people. They had gray skin and big black eyes. They were taller than humans and moved in a strange way, like they were floating instead of walking. Sarah looked out the window and saw them taking people. Mr. Johnson from the bank was picked up and carried to one of the ships. Mrs. Peterson from the grocery store was also taken. The creatures were not being gentle. They were treating humans like things, not like people. Sarah counted 17 people being taken, including some children from other classes. One of them was Emma Rodriguez, an 8-year-old girl who loved to draw pictures of her family. The creatures saw Sarah watching from the window. 2 of them came toward the school. Sarah told her students to stay hidden and went outside to meet them. "Let those people go," Sarah said. She was not afraid, even though the creatures were much bigger than her. The creatures did not answer with words. Instead, they shot her with some kind of weapon that made her fall asleep. When Sarah woke up, she was in a metal room with the other people from her town. The room was cold and smelled like chemicals. There were no windows, just bright lights that hurt her eyes. Emma Rodriguez was crying in the corner. Her arm was bleeding where the creatures had cut her. Sarah went to the little girl and held her close. "It's okay, Emma. I'm here now," Sarah said. An old man named Frank Wilson was also in the room. He owned the hardware store in town. "What do they want with us?" he asked Sarah. Before Sarah could answer, the door opened. 3 of the gray creatures came in. They were carrying tools that looked like medical instruments, but wrong somehow. Scary. The creatures pointed at Emma. They wanted to take her somewhere else. Sarah stood up. "No," she said. "You are not taking her." The creatures looked at Sarah like she was a bug they might step on. One of them spoke in a voice that sounded like metal scraping against metal. "You will not interfere. The small one is needed for genetic sampling." "Genetic sampling?" Sarah's voice got very quiet, which was always dangerous. Her soldiers had learned to be afraid when Sarah spoke quietly. "You mean you want to hurt her to learn about humans?" "Correct. Stand aside." Sarah did not stand aside. Instead, she grabbed one of the metal tools from a table and swung it at the nearest creature. The tool hit the creature in the head and it fell down. The other 2 creatures were surprised. They had expected the humans to be afraid and do nothing. They had not expected anyone to fight back. Sarah fought like the soldier she used to be, but better. She fought like a teacher protecting her students. She fought like a human who would never let anyone hurt a child. In 3 minutes, all 3 creatures were on the ground. Sarah took their weapons and their tools. "Frank, can you help me figure out how these work?" Sarah asked. Frank was good with tools and machines. He looked at the alien weapons. "I think this button makes them shoot," he said. Sarah nodded. "Good. Everyone else, stay with Emma. Frank and I are going to get us out of here." They spent the next 6 hours learning about the alien ship. Sarah made Frank teach her everything about their technology. She memorized the layout of the ship. She learned how their weapons worked. She studied their computers. The creatures had underestimated humans. They thought humans were just smart animals that could be easily controlled. They did not understand that some humans were soldiers. They did not understand that some humans were teachers who would die before letting someone hurt a child. Most importantly, they did not understand what the alien warning had tried to tell them. Humans had the persistence gene. Once you made them angry, they would never stop fighting. Sarah found the ship's star charts. She memorized the path back to the creatures' home world. She learned their language from their computers. She discovered that these creatures had been doing this to other species for hundreds of years. They called themselves Zephyrians. They traveled from world to world, taking people to study them. They had taken millions of creatures from dozens of planets. They thought it was their right because they were stronger and smarter. They had made a mistake with humans. Sarah found a small escape ship in the main ship's cargo bay. She got all 17 humans into it and flew them back to Earth. But she did not just escape. She took copies of all the Zephyrian files. She took examples of their technology. She took everything she needed to hunt them down. When they landed back in Montana, government agents were already there. Elena Rodriguez had told them about the alien warning, and they had been watching for signs of alien contact. Sarah gave them all the information she had gathered, but she also made them a promise. Those creatures hurt a little girl, Sarah said. They have been hurting people from other worlds for hundreds of years. I am going to find them and I am going to stop them. The government agents looked at Sarah. She was just a small-town teacher who weighed barely 100 pounds, but there was something in her eyes that made them believe her. The Zephyrians had learned about human persistence the hard way. Sarah Chen was about to show them what it really meant. Emma Rodriguez hugged Sarah tight before her parents took her home. "Thank you for protecting me, Miss Chen," the little girl said. Sarah hugged her back. "I will always protect you, Emma, and I will make sure they never hurt another child like you." The hunt was about to begin. 6 months after the Montana incident, Sarah Chen sat in a room full of the most important people in the world. Presidents, generals, and scientists had come to hear her speak. They all wanted to know about the aliens. Sarah had spent those 6 months studying everything the Zephyrians had left behind. She learned their language perfectly. She understood their technology. Most importantly, she knew where they came from. "The Zephyrians have been doing this for 300 years, Sarah told the room. "They take people from planets that cannot fight back. They study them like we study lab rats. Then they throw them away." A general from Russia raised his hand. "How many people are we talking about?" Sarah looked at her notes. "From Earth, they have taken over 4,000 humans in the last 50 years. Most people thought these were just missing person cases, but I found the records in their computers." The room was very quiet. "From other worlds," Sarah continued, "they have taken millions. Entire species have been wiped out for their experiments." The President of the United States leaned forward. "What do you think we should do about this?" Sarah had been waiting for this question. "We hunt them down. We stop them. We save everyone they have taken." A scientist from Japan shook her head. "Miss Chen, these creatures have technology that is hundreds of years ahead of ours. Their ships can travel between stars. We can barely get to our own moon." Sarah smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "I have been thinking about that. The Zephyrians make the same mistake that bullies always make. They think being stronger makes them smarter. But I learned something important on their ship." She stood up and walked to a big screen. Pictures of alien technology appeared. "They are not inventors," Sarah said. "They are thieves. All of their technology was stolen from other species they conquered. They take the best ideas from every world they destroy." Sarah clicked to the next picture. It showed star charts with hundreds of marked planets. "This means we do not have to invent new technology. We just have to take theirs the same way they took it from others, and I know exactly how to do it." The room was listening carefully now. "The Zephyrians think humans are weak because we do not have spaceships or energy weapons, but they forgot something important. Humans are very good at learning. We are very good at adapting, and we are very good at never giving up." Sarah clicked to another picture. It showed the design of a human spaceship. "I have been working with the best engineers in the world. We can build ships using their stolen technology. We can make weapons using their stolen designs. We can beat them using their own tools." A general from China asked, "How long will this take?" 2 years to build the first ship. 5 years to build a real fleet. But we do not wait 5 years to start hunting them." Sarah looked around the room at all the powerful people. "I am going first. In the small escape ship I stole from them. I will find where they are hiding the people they took from Earth. I will learn more about their weaknesses. I will prepare the way for the larger ships that come later." The British Prime Minister looked worried. "Miss Chen, that sounds like a suicide mission." Sarah thought about Emma Rodriguez, the little girl who had been hurt by the Zephyrians. She thought about the 4,000 humans who were still prisoners somewhere in space. She thought about the millions of other creatures who needed help. Maybe, Sarah said, but someone has to go first. Someone has to show them that humans do not give up. Someone has to make them understand that they made a big mistake when they decided to hurt our children. The room voted. Every country agreed to help Sarah. They would build the ships. They would train the crews. They would give Sarah everything she needed for her mission. 3 months later, Sarah stood next to her small spaceship. It looked like the Zephyrian escape ship, but human engineers had made it better. It was faster, stronger, and had weapons that the Zephyrians would not expect. Elena Rodriguez came to see Sarah before she left. The two women had become friends during the preparation months. "Are you scared?" Elena asked. Sarah thought about the question. "Yes, but not for myself. I am scared for all the people who are waiting for someone to save them. I am scared that if we wait too long, more children like Emma will get hurt." Elena hugged Sarah. "The whole world will be watching for your signal. When you are ready for us to come help, just call. We will be there." Sarah climbed into her ship. The engine started with a sound like thunder. She had memorized the star charts from the Zephyrian computers. She knew where to find their homeworld. As the ship lifted off from Earth, Sarah looked down at the blue planet below. Somewhere down there, Emma Rodriguez was in school, learning math and drawing pictures. The little girl was safe now, but there were other children in the galaxy who were not safe. Sarah's mission was simple: find the Zephyrians and make them pay for every person they had ever hurt. Show them what human persistence really meant. The small ship jumped into hyperspace. Sarah was no longer just a teacher from Montana. She had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a human on a hunt that would never end until justice was done. Back on Earth, governments worked day and night to build more ships. Scientists studied alien technology, soldiers trained for battles in space. The entire human race was preparing for war, but the war had already started. Sarah Chen was carrying it to the enemy. The Zephyrians had ignored the alien warning. Now they were about to learn why other species in the galaxy feared humans. Once you made humans angry, they would hunt you across the stars. Once you hurt their children, they would never let you flee. Sarah's ship disappeared into the darkness between the stars. The hunt had begun. 7 years had passed since Sarah Chen left Earth in her small ship. The galaxy had learned to fear a new sound, the hum of human engines getting closer. Sarah was no longer alone. She now commanded a fleet of 30 ships filled with humans who would never give up. Each ship carried people who had lost someone to the Zephyrians. Parents whose children had been taken. Children whose parents had disappeared. Soldiers who wanted to fight for justice. The Zephyrians had tried to hide from the humans. They had run to the edge of the galaxy. They had changed their routes. They had even tried to make peace. But Sarah always found them. Every time the Zephyrians thought they were safe, human ships would appear. Every time they tried to set up a new base, Sarah would destroy it. Every time they captured more innocent people, Sarah would free them. The humans had rescued thousands of prisoners from dozens of different worlds. Sarah's ship had become a mobile city, where former prisoners learned to fight alongside their rescuers. Commander Zextal, the leader of the Zephyrian fleet, stood in his command room looking at reports of another human attack. His hands were shaking. In 7 years, he had lost half of his ships to the humans. "How do they keep finding us?" he asked his second in command. "We do not know, sir. Every time we think we have escaped, they appear again. It is like they can see through space itself." Zextal looked at the star charts. Red marks showed where human attacks had happened. The marks covered half the galaxy now. "What do the humans want?" Zextal asked. "We have offered to return their people. We have offered to pay them money. We have offered to give them technology. They refuse everything." His officer looked scared. "Sir, I do not think they want anything from us. I think they want to destroy us completely." On her flagship, Sarah Chen studied the same star charts. But her marks were green, showing worlds that had been freed from Zephyrian control. Each green mark represented thousands of people who were now safe. Her second in command was Commander James Park, a former Air Force pilot whose sister had been taken by the Zephyrians 10 years ago. "Sarah, we have found their main prison planet," James said. "It is in the Vega system. Intelligence says they are holding over 50,000 prisoners there." Sarah looked at the information. The prison planet was heavily defended. It would be the biggest battle yet. How many human prisoners? Sarah asked. At least 3,000. Maybe more, Sarah nodded. Then we go. Send word to Earth. Tell them we need the new battleships. James looked worried. Sarah, the Zephyrians have gathered their entire remaining fleet at that planet. They are planning to make their last stand there. This will not be like the other battles. Sarah thought about Emma Rodriguez, who was now 15 years old and in high school on Earth. She thought about all the children on that prison planet who were waiting for someone to save them. Good, Sarah said. I am tired of chasing them. Let them all come to one place. We will end this. 2 months later, the largest space battle in galactic history began at the Vega system. Sarah commanded a fleet of 200 human ships. The Zephyrians had 300 ships defending their prison planet. The battle lasted for 18 hours. Human ships were smaller than Zephyrian ships, but they fought differently. The Zephyrians fought to win. The humans fought to save people. When Zephyrian ships tried to destroy the prison planet to kill the evidence, human ships threw themselves in the way. When Zephyrian commanders tried to escape, human pilots followed them into dangerous asteroid fields. Sarah's ship was hit by enemy fire and started to break apart. James begged her to evacuate. Sarah, the ship is going to explode. We have to leave now. Sarah looked at her screens. The prison planet was still defended by 12 Zephyrian ships. If those ships escaped, they could kill all the prisoners before the humans could rescue them. No, Sarah said. Ram the ship into their command vessel. Make sure those prisoners get saved. James stared at her. Sarah, that will kill us, Sarah smiled. It was the same smile she had given the Zephyrians 7 years ago when they threatened Emma Rodriguez. James, I have been dead since the day they hurt that little girl in Montana. I have just been walking around finishing business. But James had learned something about human stubbornness too. Instead of ramming the enemy ship, he ejected Sarah in an escape pod and rammed the command vessel himself. Sarah watched her friend die to save people he had never met. She watched the Zephyrian command ship explode. She watched human rescue ships land on the prison planet. The battle was won, but Sarah felt empty. So many good people had died to save the prisoners. James Park would never see his sister again. Hundreds of other humans had given their lives for strangers. When the rescue ships brought the prisoners up from the planet, Sarah understood why the sacrifice had been worth it. Children from a dozen different species ran to hug their rescuers. Parents were reunited with sons and daughters they thought were dead. Among the human prisoners was a gray-haired woman who looked familiar. Are you Sarah Chen? The woman asked. Yes. My name is Dr. Maria Santos. I was taken from Earth 12 years ago. Every day in that prison we heard stories about a human teacher who was hunting the Zephyrians across the galaxy. We never gave up hope because we knew you would never give up looking for us. Sarah hugged the older woman. You were right. We never give up. But the war was not over. Commander Zextal had escaped with a small fleet. Sarah knew he would try to rebuild. He would take more prisoners. He would hurt more children. Sarah looked at her remaining ships. Half of her fleet was gone. Many of her friends were dead. But the survivors looked at her with the same determination that had started this hunt 7 years ago. Where do we go now? Asked her new second-in-command. Sarah looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, Zextal was planning his next move. Somewhere out there, other species like the Zephyrians were probably watching to see if the humans would keep fighting. We follow them, Sarah said, until every prisoner is free, until every child is safe, until they understand that humans never let you flee when you hurt the innocent. The hunt continued. The galaxy was learning that humans kept their promises no matter how long it took. 3 more years had passed. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her new flagship, looking at the homeworld of the Zephyrians. The planet called Zephyr Prime hung in space like a gray marble. After 10 years of hunting, she had finally cornered her enemies. But Sarah was not the same person who had left Earth a decade ago. Her hair was now white, and scars covered her arms from many battles. She commanded not just human ships now, but vessels from 20 different species that the Zephyrians had hurt over the centuries. The Krillin people, whose children had been stolen for experiments. The Vorthan species, whose entire homeworld had been destroyed by Zephyrian weapons. The gentle Mylari, who had been used as slave labor for 200 years. All of them had joined Sarah's fleet. All of them wanted justice. Commander Chen, said Jexta, a Krillin captain whose own daughter had died in Zephyrian experiments. Our scouts report that Zextal has barricaded himself in the capital city. He has over 1 million civilian Zephyrians as shields. Sarah studied the reports. After 10 years of war, Zextal had finally run out of places to hide. His military was destroyed. His prison ships were captured. His empire was finished, but he still had one last trick. He was hiding behind his own people, hoping that Sarah would not attack innocent civilians. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Torres, a young human officer whose parents had been taken when she was a baby, "we could destroy the city from orbit. End this war right now." Sarah looked at the young woman. Torres had grown up on Sarah's ships. She had never known peace. All she had ever known was the hunt for the Zephyrians. "Lieutenant, how many innocent Zephyrians live in that city?" Sarah asked. "About 1 million, ma'am." "But they are the enemy's people." Sarah shook her head. "No, Lieutenant. They are just people. The enemies are the ones who hurt children and stole families. Not everyone who happens to be born Zephyrian is guilty." Torres looked confused. "But ma'am, after everything they did to us, do we not deserve revenge?" Sarah walked to the window and looked down at the planet. She thought about Emma Rodriguez, who was now 25 years old and a teacher herself. She thought about all the children she had saved over the years. She thought about James Park and all the other friends who had died in this war. "Torres, what do you think those children we saved would want us to do? Do you think they would want us to hurt innocent people?" The bridge was very quiet. Everyone was listening. "I think," Torres said slowly, "they would want us to be better than the Zephyrians." Sarah smiled. It was the first real smile she had smiled in years. "That is exactly right. We will be better." Sarah opened a communication channel to the planet below. Commander Zextal's face appeared on her screen. He looked old and scared. "Human," Zextal said. "You have won. My fleet is destroyed. My empire is finished. What do you want from me now?" Sarah looked at the creature who had caused so much pain across the galaxy. "I want you to surrender completely. I want you to free every prisoner you still hold. I want you to open your files so we can find families that were separated. I want you to stand trial for your crimes." Zextal laughed bitterly. "And if I refuse, you will destroy my city and kill 1 million innocent people?" Sarah's voice was very calm. "No, if you refuse, I will wait. I will blockade your planet. I will cut off your supplies. I will wait until your own people realize that you are the reason they are suffering. I will wait until they turn you over to me themselves." Zextal stared at her. "You would wait? For how long?" "Forever, if necessary. Humans are very good at waiting when justice is at stake." For the first time in the war, Zextal looked truly afraid. He had expected Sarah to be like him, to choose the quick and violent solution. He had not expected mercy combined with infinite patience. "You are not like other species," Zextal said quietly. "No," Sarah agreed. "We are not." 2 days later, Zextal surrendered. The Zephyrian people themselves had demanded it. They were tired of hiding. They were tired of being ashamed of what their leaders had done. The trial was held on a neutral world with judges from 50 different species. For 6 months, the galaxy heard testimony about 300 years of Zephyrian crimes. The evidence was overwhelming, but the most powerful testimony came from the victims who had been saved. Emma Rodriguez, now a grown woman, flew from Earth to speak at the trial. She stood before the Galactic Court and told her story. "When I was 8 years old," Emma said, "monsters took me from my home and hurt me. They wanted to study me like I was not a real person. But my teacher, Miss Chen, saved me. She did not just save me that day. She spent 10 years of her life making sure they could never hurt another child." Emma looked at Sarah, who was sitting in the audience. "Miss Chen taught me something important. She taught me that when someone hurts innocent people, good people have to stand up and stop them. But she also taught me that we have to stay good people while we do it. We cannot become monsters to fight monsters." The judges were impressed by the testimony, but they were more impressed by what Sarah had done after winning the war. Instead of destroying the Zephyrians, Sarah had helped them build a new government. Instead of taking revenge, she had made them create programs to help the species they had hurt. The Zephyrian world became a center for galactic healing. Former prisoners came there to reunite with their families. The Zephyrian people worked to undo the damage their leaders had caused. Zextal was sentenced to spend the rest of his life helping to rebuild the worlds he had destroyed. At the end of the trial, the Kethmoran scout who had sent the original warning 10 years ago asked to speak. "Your Honors," the scout said, 10 years ago I sent a warning through space. I told Zephyrian ships not to assault the humans because humans would never let them flee. I was right, but not for the reasons I thought. The court listened carefully. I thought humans were dangerous because they would hunt enemies forever. I did not understand that humans are dangerous because they will protect innocent people forever. I did not understand that human persistence comes from love, not hate. The scout looked at Sarah. Commander Chen could have destroyed the Zephyrian homeworld. She could have killed millions in revenge. Instead, she chose justice. She chose healing. She chose to be better than her enemies. This is why the galaxy should respect humans, not because they are strong, but because they are good. After the trial, Sarah finally went home to Earth. She had been in space for 13 years. She was 50 years old now and tired, but when her ship landed, thousands of people were waiting for her. People from Earth and people from other worlds. People she had saved and people whose families she had saved. Emma Rodriguez was there with her own daughter, a little girl named Sarah. "Miss Chen," Emma said, "I want you to meet your namesake. I hope she grows up to be as brave as you." Sarah held the little girl and thought about the future. The galaxy was safer now. Children from dozens of worlds could grow up without fear. The warning that had started everything 10 years ago had become a promise. Humans would protect the innocent no matter how long it took. But the warning was still true in its own way. If anyone in the galaxy ever tried to hurt innocent people again, humans would still never let them flee. Not until justice was done. Sarah Chen, the teacher who had become a galactic hero, finally came home. The hunt was over. The healing could begin.